More Nigerians clamor for the palliatives as promised by President Muhammadu Buhari, who says that the social safety net should be expanded by 1 million. But the National Assembly leadership believes the net is not covering much of the poorest of the poor. And today, the APC leader Bola Tinubu has advised President Buhari on what to do in the area of sustaining the economy and ensuring that Nigerians do not suffer within this COVID-19 period. Hello everyone and welcome to the program. This is the media edition of Politics Today live on Channels Television. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I'm Sean Wakimalo. It's the 1 hour stretch of a program tonight, and we'll be bringing you up to speed with some of the latest that you need to know across the land. Let me tell you that some of the information regarding COVID-19 cases in Nigeria, with 11 cases announced in Lagos, will shot the figure of the confirmed rate to 373 with 11 deaths recorded. But that may have risen now as Lagos State government has recorded another death from COVID-19. The victim is a 63-year-old male citizen of Nigeria who has no travel history outside the country or contact with any confirmed case. Lagos now has 217 confirmed cases of COVID-19, 69 discharged cases and 17 deaths. More development in some parts of the country also. Kano State is also experiencing more cases. Those are some of the cases that we'll be bringing to you right here on Channels Television. Well, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has held its daily press briefing today, but earlier they had a virtual video conference with President Buhari to bring him up to speed on the latest on the issue of COVID-19. 2 days ago, the president addressed the nation in a nationwide broadcast where he extended the lockdown in Ogun, Lagos State and the FCT by 14 more days. We have some more updates for you on our political roundup.
In Adamawa State, residents can now go about their day-to-day activities. This comes as the governor of the state, Umaru Fintiri, has relaxed the restriction order movement across the state. Meanwhile, some indigent residents, particularly those at Yola North, have been receiving foodstuff courtesy of the wife of the state governor.
Government has decided to relax the restriction order for the time being.
And the Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed has inaugurated a COVID-19 Economic Recovery Committee responsible for seeking solutions to fiscal sustainability and development during and post-COVID-19. The committee, chaired by the Commissioner for Budget and Economic Planning, Dr. Aminu Gamawa, has 2 weeks to submit his report and will advise government in the areas of revised medium-term expenditure framework, 2020 budget, internally generated revenue and resource mobilization. In the meantime, Governor Mohammed has laid to rest the controversy surrounding the deduction of workers' salaries to fight COVID-19. He insists that there will not be compunction in the donation.
Who have agreed to donate certain percentages of their salaries to fight against COVID in both states.
In Katsina State, Governor Minu Masari has directed that indigents returning from states with high cases of COVID-19 or coming back from abroad must be screened at entry point by the health personnel manning the land borders. The State Commissioner of Information, Culture and Home Affairs, Abdul Karim Yahya Serika, dropped the hint to reporters at the General Muhammadu Buhari Government House in Katsina while informing them on the activities of Sensitization Committee on COVID-19. The commissioner further revealed that during the courtesy calls on traditional rulers by the committee, they have been requested to report the presence of returnees from trips for proper scrutiny by health personnel.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. A lot of you who are now, you're not working, you're not going to the office or earning any daily living because, of course, of the obvious reasons of the lockdown by President Muhammadu Buhari. And now you're wondering, where will the palliatives or when will the palliatives come? either from the state government or from the federal government, the president, Muhammadu Buhari, ordered that the social safety net be expanded by 1 million from 2.6 million to 3.6 million to allow for coverage for more Nigerians to get palliatives within the period of the lockdown. The social safety net, which is one of the system of getting the data and those who are within the poorest of the poor in the society, perhaps cover just about that figure, which the president says should be expanded. But the National Assembly has criticized the process, saying it does not have a full coverage of the poorest of the poor in our society. Tonight, we shall be dissecting the social safety net and the palliatives as promised by President Muhammadu Buhari, because a lot of people are wondering, when you do not have the data or means of reaching the poorest of the poor who have no means of livelihood at this period, then there is a problem. So tonight, we're seeking to get some insight on what is happening and how these people can be reached in these four segments of the program. I have joining me Mr. Abhay Yuwar, the National Coordinator of the National Social Safety Net Coordinating Office. Is the government unit tasked with implementing the National Safety Net project. And also with him there is the editor of the International Center for Investigative Reporting, Mr. Ajibola Amzad, who have done some work on breaking down some of the issues as regarding the social safety net. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming tonight. Perhaps I should begin with Mr. Ajibola. Give us a sense of what you found out in the figures that the federal government has put out from the Office of the National Social Safety Net Office, what they've said and what the number that they have. What came out to you in your investigation?
Thank you very much, Sheung. In 2018, June to be specific, we commissioned an investigation to look into the conditional cash transfer program of the President Muhammadu Buhari. And we wanted to find out what exactly is happening to the amount allocated by the government to the poorest of the poor in the country. And we wanted to be, sure of the number and the details provided by the agency of the government that is responsible for that. So in looking at the data provided, we found out that more than 500,003 were captured in the data. And of course, at the end of the day, those ones who were eventually paid were 297,973. So when you look at the data and then look at the way the data is queued, who is getting what from each of the states, we became very curious. And that was why we decided to look into the data more closely.
Your curiosity led you to further investigation of some of these. We understand just about 19 states are benefiting presently. But what further gave you some feeling to research more into this figure, and what did you find out?
So a couple of days ago, I think someone went through some of the stories that we have done before. I mean, the particular story that I mentioned in 2018, and somebody pulled out the infographic from the report and shared it on Twitter. So I think the information on the data started people started getting interested in the data because now that the issue of the palliative is becoming more popular, as we talk about the COVID-19 palliatives, people wanted to know who is actually getting what. So the young man pulled out the data and shared it, and the data became what everybody on Twitter, on Facebook were sharing. And then we were calling us, asking to find out whether that indeed was our report, because it was taken out from the entire report. So we need to keep explaining to different people that this story, this report we're talking about is not 2020 report. It was a report done in 2018. And the data provided in that report are very accurate, because some were suggesting that it was some kind of fake news and all that. No, it was not fake news. The data were sourced from NASSCO. And when we started getting those kind of feedback, we needed to do an update on the story. And what you are having there is the new data that we provided.
Okay, we'll get more insight. But before I go to the national coordinator, 2.6 million, Mr. Ajibola, is what the social safety register we currently have. But it's just about
2.6.
1.2 million households that are being currently served presently in that the conditional cash transfer. Any disparity for you?
So in fact, the recent figure is now 2.6 million of the household captured. But what we have now, let me be certain about that. So the individual captured is 11 million individuals for 2020. And then the household is 2.6 million.
Okay, so if you look at the analysis, it shows that the northwestern region has over 500,000 people benefiting from the conditional cash transfer. It looks so much that is the southeast that has the least beneficiaries, followed by the southwest, then the south-south, then we have North Central and the Northwest being the highest beneficiaries. But let's speak with the coordinator to give us a sense of what this means. First and foremost, Mr. Eyowa, give us what, tell Nigerians, first and foremost, why, from the point of view of the National Assembly, when they said that social register does not cover the poorest of the poor.
Thank you very much, Sheun. Let me start by thanking you for inviting me in here. And I think there's a lot to unpack when you talk about the social register. The first issue to unpack is the development of the social register is the responsibility of the various state governments. It is a state social register. What we do at national level is to collate this information from the various state social registers that form the National Social Register. So the actual activities at state level owned by the state. The body responsible for picking this data or generating this data is the State Operations Coordinating Unit that is domiciled in the Ministry of Planning under the supervision of the Permanent Secretaries of various state Ministry of Planning. It is a state register for obvious reasons because it is an information gateway for potential eligible beneficiaries to any social intervention program, including the cash transfer. Now, this has been work in progress for over 4 years. And the state governments, through these offices, have been generating this register this number of years. Out of course, the progress made by states is all dependent on a number of factors. Now, other countries, global best practice and other countries have used close to 15, 17 years, some even 20 years to develop their registers. Ours is just 4 years, and so it's work in progress. So we're going about it. Now, for the purpose of this conversation is the fact that when we start out with any state, the state will pick through the geographical mapping, the poorest or the poor LGAs. And Nigeria is mapped from the poorest to the poor to the poorest LGA. From empirical evidence and data collected by Bureau of Statistics of Nigeria. Now, for every state, they will start with 30% poorest LGAs, and then the data they start collecting from that point of view. So what you see is a startup of these registers in the states. So when you talk about the Southeast, for instance, a good number of the states are still under these 30% LGAs just yet. Others have moved into 50%, others have moved to 70%, others are going statewide. So it's all work in progress, and it takes the time. Because of the way the country is and the complexity thereof, you would only be building as you'll be biting in small chunks. That said, back to the topic around the figures that you see. Yes, it's a reflection of the state social registers that have been collected by the national office. Our responsibility is to set standards, provide technical facilitation, collate, validate, and ensure quality assurance on this data and put it together into the National Social Register.
So, Mr. Yowa, so we have 18 states out of 36 states, FCT is captured. So it's 17 states plus the FCT. So this is how far you have gone so far.
No. Sorry to, if I'll get you the total number of states. The total number of states in the social register as we speak, some of the information you see are even as at 29th of March. So as at 29th of March, we had 34 states of the Federation, including and the FCT, making it 35 states with the information on the social register. So all this number of states, I'll include FCT and call it 35, have information on the state social register that is now collected at the national level. Only Ebonyi and Ogun didn't have numbers yet. But even these two states, as we speak, there are the local government staff who are collecting this data in the various communities as led by their state governments.
So from the data, okay, so let's clear this before we jump into something else. So Ebonyi and Ogun State, for example, no one in those states can benefit from the palliatives or the program of government as of now.
No, because the government, the palliatives of government are really wide. If you're talking about point of palliative, Ebonyi, under the leadership of the Honorable Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Hajia Sadia Omar Farouk, some palliatives have already gone out to some of the states. Ebonyi particularly has already received some food materials, food for distribution. So the government palliatives are all over and far and ranging. There are others that are being distributed by NEMA and other bodies. So
but
it is not restricted
if, for example, so apologies to Botin, sorry, apologies, Mr. Yowa, if they are not captured in the register, how do you then know who to reach and give the palliatives to?
There are other strategies that the government is using to reach millions of Nigerians with palliative. The social register and the cash transfer is just one of them. So just to clear the air, you see, the cash transfer has been existing before now. The cash transfer is not in itself a palliative, so to speak, but under the president's directive is that the existing cash transfer beneficiaries should be given further stipend. And that is what Mr. President has been very, very clear about. The cash transfer that is existing currently, the current beneficiary of the cash transfer are being paid their cash stipend. And Mr. President has gone ahead to direct that you pay them advance or arrears payments. Now, the other palliatives are in the food supplies that the government is doing either through NEMA or through other means. So the information taken from the social register, it's basically from the cash transfer that has already been existing long before now.
Okay, so quickly, we'll go for our first break on the program. From the graph that we had there, it's obvious that Lagos, Delta, and Borno State are obviously on nil there. Can you explain why that is happening?
Okay, the information you put before you, that's information of enrollment of the cash transfer beneficiary. That is not the social register. And that is the responsibility of the National Cash Transfer Office that mine from the social register. So if you go to the figures of the social register, that is now 2.6 million households. Thank you very much for those figures. That's accurate. Lagos and Borno have people on the social register who are duly qualified based on the criteria of government to also access the cash transfer program. And currently, the cash transfer office is actually enrolling beneficiaries in those states.
Okay, so we go on a short break, but when we come back, there's still a few issues here and there that we would like you, Mr. Yowa, to clarify. And of course, we get Mr. Ajibala's reaction on some of these issues and their findings at the center there. When we come back, more on the palliatives. If you are not getting it and you don't have it yet, you will find more reasons why it has not gotten to you or whether or not it will get to you in the coming days. Don't go away. We'll be back. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. So a lot of people have concerns about the social register, particularly on the palliatives the president promised. And he said that should be increased. The capacity should be increased by 1 million from 2.6 million in the register to 3.6 million. So we're getting clarity and some explanation. We have Mr. Apera Yoa. He's a national coordinator of the National Social Safety Net Coordinating Office. And also Mr. Ajibola Amzad is the editor of the International Center for Investigative Reporting. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on. Before I come back to you, Mr. Yoa, Mr. Ajibola, give us a sense of what you make of the reaction of the National Assembly when they said the register does not cover the programs of government targeted at getting the palliatives to the people, does not cover the poorest of the poor. Is that true?
That is very, very correct. If you look at the first report that we published, you're going to find out that the social register that we quoted, when you look at it against the register, I mean the beneficiary register, you kind of see a lot of disparity. So many communities were left out, even those ones that were captured by the social register, they were not captured by the beneficiary register. So you see that discrepancy a lot. Many people who were expecting to be paid, whose name appeared, who were captured, who were interviewed, and every details of their household were captured in the register, but they were left out in the beneficiary list. So that we found out in our report, and that's a question we are also trying to put to the NASSCO. How could you capture 100 people and you attend to only less than 30% of those ones in your payment?
So let's get Mr. Yoa to react to that. So if there are concerns that these are some of the graphs and figures coming from your office, Mr. Yoa, but if there are concerns from the National Assembly that your register does not cover the poorest of the poor, are you worried about that perception? Is it true, though?
First, the reaction of the Assembly, we take it completely as a feedback to the system, and we welcome such feedback. The National Assembly is genuinely concerned about our work and their support to our work, and they were very, very clear on providing the right legislation that gives support to the work that we're doing. As I mentioned before, this is work in progress. So the social register is developed not only for conditional cash transfer. Conditional cash transfer is one of the many benefits that you can access through this, the social register. And the social register is developed by the community. The community members will sit and they will determine within the parameters and context of the community what is then poverty. Who amongst these community members are considered poor and vulnerable? The community members would then identify these poor and vulnerable who will be enumerated. When these people are enumerated and come into the social register, they are then open to opportunities that come on a targeted program like the cash transfer. The federal government of Nigeria had decided when these programs were conceptualized that the poorest of the poor will be targeted, and the poorest of the poor within the social register lies between the first to the sixth decile. So you will find out that where you have 100 people within the community, how many of those fall within the first to the sixth decile?
So, Mr. Yoa, apologies to butt in quickly. Apologies, please. Can you explain
the definition before you bring out the customer?
If you explain the first list there on that my producer put first, that you can see on your screen, which had 18 states plus the FCT there, that is a conditional cash transfer, and the community is right in front of it that are benefiting. Is it true? You can see there.
I will not see that list very well, but I would think that would be true, yes.
So it's only
For each
18
of
states
those
and the FCT. Apologies.
states, those
Is
are the
it
number of
only 18
communities
states and
who
the
are on the
FCT
social
that are
register,
benefiting
yes.
presently on the conditional cash transfer?
No. Presently, we are more than 26 states that the cash transfer program is going on. And like I mentioned, enrollment is ongoing in the other states. All the 35 states, including FCT, that are on the social register, have a number of beneficiaries that are qualified for the cash transfer. And the cash transfer office is at the moment enrolling these beneficiaries into the cash transfer to access the cash transfer program. So the process is, once the social register is developed in any community and the proxy mean tests are applied and ranked accordingly, the cash transfer office will then come and mine this information from the social register and enroll them into a beneficiary register that they will then access cash. And this is global best practice all over the world. In fact, in other places of the world, only those from first to the fourth decile that are considered poor. But in Nigeria, our absolute poverty figure stands at 60%. And so the federal government took the decision that anyone within the social register that falls below the 6th decile will access the cash transfer program. Of course, there are people in some of our states or the federation in the social register that are also benefiting from other programs like the Youth Skills for Job program, where youths are mined from the social register and placed on vocations and skills acquisition program. And after a period of time, they are then paid a stipend for them to start up their businesses. There are other people like in Cross River and other states where the information from the state social register is used to mine beneficiaries for public works.
All right, Mr. Yoa, because of our time on this particular segment, let me get a final thought from Mr. Ajibola. And some of these figures with a population of 200 million people, over 10 million out of school children, about 90 million Nigerians who live in extreme poverty, 2.6 million social safety net, which is supposed to be extended to 3.6 million. 23.1%, which is, the figure is saying, is probably now higher on the unemployment rate. In these palliatives arrangement, what are your biggest fear with these figures that we have?
First of all, the NASSCO has to agree that the collection of that data is problematic, because in the analysis they made to us, they had to use an approach used by World Bank in other states in order to capture the data of other states. But what we found out is that many people indeed were left out in that arrangement. They were talking about scientific method, but the scientific method that leaves out so many Nigerians out of the palliative system is not scientific enough. It's discriminatory. And we think that it is not by accident that some states from the northern part of the country were recorded a higher number than the other states. I mean, if you look at the data you just provided now, you will find out that a state like Katsina, that is not even the highest, does not have the highest numbers of the people on the register, but happened to be the one with the highest number of beneficiaries. So those are the kind of questions our readers are, raising to us. I mean, sharing with us.
So,
that how does this happen? Katsina is not the highest on the list. It's Zamfara and Kebbi. But when you checked the allocated palliative, it's Katsina you find there. So those questions are very valid questions that we not responded to.
Okay, so let's get our final thought with Mr. Yoa. For those who are expecting the palliatives, just in about few seconds, Mr. Yoa, give us where lies their hope right now? For those who are expecting the palliatives, what can you tell them that can raise perhaps their hope?
The Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development under the Honorable Minister is very clear on the palliatives and the strategies that we are using to reach millions of Nigerians. And these palliatives are in various forms. So for the food distribution, already truckloads of rice and other materials are already being distributed. Tomorrow, the Honorable Minister is in one of the states, Katsina, to flag that off. Last week, we were also in Ebonyi, Imo State, and Anambra to interact with the government and also distribute some material. So Imo State already have its food palliatives by the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian under the leadership of the minister. So has Ebonyi. Tomorrow, other states like Kano, Kebbi, Katsina will be getting, along with other states. Last week, just 2 days ago, she also did the same thing in Lagos and Ogun State. And so those palliatives are coming to every single state of the federation from the ministry. Other agencies of government like NEMA are also distributing palliatives and food care. As far as the social register and the cash transfer is concerned, the Honorable Minister, Hajia Sadia Omar Farouk, is very clear in her directives to us to rapidly expand the register and digitize payment that gets faster to every beneficiary. So like I said before, it's work in progress. The Mr. President has given us the charge to move the register from 2.6 million to 3.6 million
Mr.
people
Yowa,
on the social register.
Yeah, we have to leave it at that because of our time. But I must sincerely thank you for coming tonight, Mr. Yowa, who is the National Coordinator of the National Social Safety Net Coordinating Office. Thank you so much for coming tonight. And also Mr. Ajibola Amzad, who is the editor of the International Center for Investigative Reporting. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming.